Whether your beer is in a bottle, can, or glass, kick back and relax. It's Better on Draft.
And we are live. This is the Michigan series, episode number 11. My name is Ken. Thank you so much for joining us. Of course, if you're not listening to us live, you can listen to us live every Friday at 7 p.m. Eastern. You can join us at facebook.com/betterondraft or betterondraft.tv. Once again, my name is Ken. For me today, I am drinking. I've got a refill. Sorry, I was not drinking Tullamore Dew earlier. I lied during the news segment, which if you're listening to this first, you're hearing this for the first time. I have Canadian Club because I bought cheap whiskey to mix. So Canadian Club and the Diet Vernors. And then for my side drink, I've got a nice bottle of Tenjaku that I'm going to be drinking as well. It is definitely a whiskey night for me, for sure. Going over, Nick was showing off his drink. What are you drinking over there, Nick?
I, too, am going the liquor route tonight. Double fist, of course. In the small glass, we got Griffin Clough Line Buffalo Bourbon Whiskey. And then going the Cuba Libre or the, rum and Coke, just minus the lime, using Coca-Cola and Havana Club, straight from Cuba.
I was going to say, whenever somebody says minus to something, it always reminds me of the Waterboy joke. I want a scotch and water hold the scotch.
Is that supposed to be some kind of joke? Yes, it is. You're a funny guy. Sorry. Okay.
Well, Dan, you were drinking liquor during the news segment. What are you drinking now?
Still drinking liquor. Apparently that's what we do on a beer show. I've got the Stolian soda.
There's a lot of, distilleries. People are making their own liquors. People are bringing liquors in. So I feel like it's just going to be to the point where it's all together. Robert, what are you drinking over there?
I have kind of branched off a little bit. So now I am drinking a Smog City Bourbon Barrel Aged OE, which is their barrel aged barley wine.
Nice catch.
I've got I've kind of gone to liquor a little bit myself, and now I've gotten the Catcher's Rye single barrel whiskey.
Robert's staying local. Wendy, what are you drinking?
There we go.
All right. I have switched to the Pigeon Hill Double Dooms, which is their breast cancer awareness beer. This is a pretty cool beer because it's got names of people who submitted loved ones who have passed away from breast cancer or fighting breast cancer on there. So I really wanted to get that one. It's a double IPA. It has a little pineapple flavor to it. I like it. And I also brought out the big guns today. My friend went on a trip to the East Coast, and she brought me back some Hill Farmstead. So I have an Anna, which is a Farmstead ale brewed with honey. It is delicious. I have been slowly working my way through this bottle tonight. That's about all the beer I can drink too.
All right. Well, we did something a little bit different. Usually we do the interview first and then the news. This time we did the news first and the interview, so it's a little bit later in the evening. But we have from the Rake Beer Project, Josh Rake. How you doing today?
I'm doing all right. How are you all?
We are good. Thank you so much for joining us. Are you drinking something right now?
I actually have a gin and tonic from the Chili Beer Garden or Drink Garden at Wonderland Distillery in Muskegon.
There you are. See, we're all supporting. Well, I'm supporting Japanese whiskey and Canadian whiskey, but we're definitely hitting the liquor tonight. As we appreciate you joining us, the very first question that I kind of want to talk about. Why don't you give us the 1 minute elevator pitch? What is Rake Beer Project, and why should I go there?
Yeah, at Rake Beer Project, we define ourselves as being progressive farmhouse ales. And what that means for us is essentially we're just taking traditional brewing methods and applying them to modern styles that are popular in the market today and kind of connecting the old with the new as best as we can.
Simple, easy, and to the point. Rob.
That's it.
Rob, you're muted.
There we go. Pulling the Wendy. All right. Now I'm ready.
Ooh, shot fired.
All right. So Yeah, hey. So previous to opening your own brewery, your resume's been pretty extensive. Obviously with stops at the Gallery, Jolly Pumpkin, New Holland, and Old Nation. I guess tell us about what you learned from the journey of going through those locations and how it has shaped the Rake Beer project. And you're on mute.
You're on mute now.
There we go.
There we go.
There we go.
Sorry about that. So I think you were asking about sort of my background. It sounded like before I lost it.
So like the places that you've been, like the Gallery, Jolly Pumpkin, New Holland, Old Nation. I was curious about how those places have shaped your journey into creating the Rake Beer project.
Totally. Yeah, no, I was incredibly lucky before I opened this project to be able to work for some of who I think of as, the leading people in American craft beer. My first job at a real production brewery was under Jeffries at Jolly Pumpkin. And as a lot of you probably know, there's really not a better place where you can kind of get immersed into the craft beer landscape. And from there, it really gave me an idea of what you can do and how weird you can be, and how far you can take things and still have people connect with it. And so when I got into the brewing industry, my goal was always to open my own brewery, and so I kind of was able to sort of pick and choose a way to build who I wanted to be as a brewer when I left working for other people and opened my own place. And so I knew, with Jolly Pumpkin, I wanted to learn how to make the sour beer and do the sour beer thing. At New Holland, it was very much learning the big barrel aged stouts, the barrel aging program, and seeing how a massive production brewery works. And then at Old Nation, it was about learning the hazies, and kind of seeing how a brewery can grow that way as well. So I was very lucky to have a super well-rounded resume and work for some really, really intelligent people along the way who kind of lended me their ear whenever I needed it, so.
Nice. So, and one of the programs that I saw that runs through your location out there, it's kind of a community-supported agricultural program where consumers can support farmers by purchasing from them directly and picking up at your location. I was curious, with these local ingredients and local items that are coming from these farmers that are at your fingertips, are there any type of collaborations that you've been doing or plan to do with the local farmers using some of their harvests as your ingredients?
Yeah, totally. For us, calling ourselves a farmhouse brewery in an urban setting, we always knew we wanted to be connected to different farms, however that might show its face there. And as a matter of fact, one of my bartenders and assistant brewers, she actually just started her own inner city farm, and we have a whole bunch of different stuff planned to use some of her produce and some of her herbs and those types of things in our beers. And as a matter of fact, the first collaboration that we did with her, Michaela, was for the original Big Gretch. We used the cucumbers that she grew in her garden.
Oh, wow.
Yes. So that was really cool. And for us, it was very cool to have that be connected to a garden, an actual local garden that we knew where was being grown and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Now, I definitely will get into the Big Gretch thing on in a little bit. We'll definitely get into that one. But I guess speaking of the collaborations, there was one thing that you had pointed out in an article that I saw, that one of your recent favorite collaborations was done by Barami and Birds Fly South, a beer called Outback Counting Stars, which I was hoping was a reference to the song by Hum, but I guess that's a question to ask about that one. 90s,
I can
90s alternative.
Off the top of my
head. 90s alternative was my life. But I was curious about what would be your dream collaboration. Is there a brewery that you would want to join forces with, or is it one that, of the collaborations that you've already done, is it one that you feel has already happened?
Yeah, my stance is that collaboration, we're always looking to collaborate with pretty much anybody out there who wants to collaborate with us. So my dream collaboration is literally with anybody who wants to make some cool beer with us. If I had to pick, if I had to say, like, I would definitely say I've probably already done them. My two favorite breweries are Transient and Speciation right here in Michigan. And we were able to collaborate with both of those breweries before we even opened. They're good friends of ours and have been, huge helps for us along the way. And so we hold those, that relationship very near to us, and really, really relish the fact that those people all helped us out along the way.
Mm-hmm. And, there's, and actually got to go in about the brewery in that, there's a lot of breweries that are out here on the east side that, for their memberships, that they are called, the Mug Club, or pretty much that's pretty much it. It's like that's the most like common name that you hear about groups that are in a Mug Club, that they are Mug Club members. But it looks like from what I saw that you refer to yours as the family. And I was curious about that and how, it's a very distinct and I kind of feel somewhat intimate name for a group. And I was curious on how that name was decided and, what makes them the family.
Totally. Yeah. So when we were coming up with sort of the name and the branding for that membership club, I looked around and saw that most of the people that were helping me get this business off the ground, internally were a lot of my family members. We're about as close as you can get to a mom and pop shop. My mom bartends for me once or twice a week whenever we need it. My dad helps me with accounting and stuff like that, and so we look at the business, the people who work for us, and our close group of customers as family. And so we figured what better way to kind of put that out there than just to call it the family.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I like that. All right, I'm going to pass it off to Wendy. I think she's got a couple here she wants to ask.
I do. So I actually read somewhere that you have no interest in distributing your beer right now. And I know we've seen this work tremendously well for beers like No Rules and KBBS. But I guess I'm just wondering why. I want you to tell me why you think that we should make the trip to visit your brewery and what sets you apart.
Totally. My whole thing with, we don't necessarily want to not distribute. We just never want our business to be reliant on a distribution model. We want to be able to sell all of our beer out of our tap room. And then we look at distribution as more of a marketing plan than, a real source of income for the brewery, as a way for people to find out about us. The main thing is, I'm from Muskegon. I grew up here. Muskegon has never really had the greatest reputation around the state. But we've been here and we've invested in the community. We've seen sort of, how beautiful Muskegon is. And we just think that it would be better if people could come to Muskegon and see what's going on here. And so our biggest thing is trying to draw people to Muskegon to kind of, change how people think about Muskegon and all of those types of things. So that's our biggest goal, is just to get people to come into town, come grab some beers with us and then go see some of our neighbors who are doing really cool things as well. And that's sort of the goal behind that,
Well, I have a lot of friends that are from Muskegon, and I can guarantee you that they are doing everything they can to change the perception of Muskegon as well. I absolutely love it there. It's beautiful. What are some of the things that you're doing with other groups in the community to try to promote that, I guess?
Yeah, so we work really heavily with sort of the music and arts scene in Muskegon to promote. There's a really, really I don't know if prolific is the right word, but a really, really bubbling just scene of artists and musicians in Muskegon, and we try to do whatever we can to sort of bring them to the forefront. If you've seen our Michigan music series or the Mitten music series that we've been doing with certain bands around the west side of Michigan, starting with our favorite band from Muskegon, we've done a bunch of stuff like that, and then we try to do beach cleanups with our friends at Aldea, which is the coffee roaster in the same building as us. Just things like that to really showcase our sort of the nature that surrounds us. We do a hiking club in the summer, so people meet at the brewery, go hiking, come back to the brewery, have a beer afterwards. And for us, it's just about yeah, it's about shaping that narrative and kind of saying, hey, this is what people think of it, but we have all of this great stuff here that might be going under the radar for a lot of people, so come see us is what we're saying.
Awesome. So, what are some of the beer styles that you're enjoying making and that you would like to see come out of Rake Beer Project?
So right now we just put out a beer called Grow, which is oak aged table beer. And for me, we don't have the resources to make lagers. We don't have, for instance, cold fermentation or anything like that. And so, for us, our table beer program is like a lager program for any other brewery, and that's kind of one that's very near and dear to my heart. And we're super proud of this most recent one called Grow, which is, like I said, an oak aged table beer. It's just over 4%. It's got just a really nice hint of oak on it, but super crushable, super crisp. What you're looking for when people are thinking about, like a foeder lager or something like that. So for us, that's been something that I've really focused on recently, is sort of our table beer program. And within that includes our Marley beer, which is named after my dog, which is our tart table beer, which is my absolute favorite beer that we make, and sort of the one that I push people towards when they're looking for something to try in our tap room.
Awesome. Sounds delicious. So the the whole modern beer styles with traditional brewing methods, how does that affect the way your beer tastes for the modern styles?
Yeah, and so with that, what we're really talking about is, right now, people want fruit. They want lots of fruit. They want hops. They want lots of hops, and they want high ABV, and they want lots of high ABV. And so we're taking styles that we've seen made traditionally, and then just cramming them full of fruit, cramming them full of hops, whatever that might be.
All right. I think. Well,
Sorry, I totally got lost.
It's okay.
When he got mesmerized there,
I
that
did.
I kind of want to go back. I want to go back because you've obviously been under easily some of the best brewers in the state of Michigan, between Ron Jeffries over at Jolly Pumpkin, Travis over at Old Nation. Like, these are guys who have made, some of the best beers in the state. Everybody talks about Ron Jeffries as for the lack of better words, a god. Some of the interviews that we've had him just loved by everyone, especially like Jester King. And then Travis, who makes such amazing beers that are true to style, and then gets famous for M43 and all the hazies. How do you think, how do you manage that balance in the state of Michigan for the love of hazies and the love of IPAs with the want to potentially make beers that aren't those two styles?
Yeah, I think that this is kind of what you see across the board with breweries of all types right now, is trying to balance sort of like the brewer's favorite beers, which are, table beers and saisons, lagers, the more traditional beers with what the market is kind of demanding right now. And so we try to do our best to try to balance between the two, and kind of, I always think, if I can make Travis and Ron proud, that's kind of my goal at the end of the day, and so we try to balance the two. We don't ever want to get too far down the line of making the craziest beers out there or anything like that, but we always do want to satisfy sort of what the consumer is looking for right now. And at the end of the day, the things that sell fastest for us, and especially currently when most of our sales are via packaged beer, with sort of the climate right now with COVID and tap rooms being shut down, we found that the things that sell fastest for us are the craziest things that we make, so the most heavily fruited things. But then we found that if we can do those and then sort of introduce people to the styles that we like and that we, enjoy making along the way, we can pick up new people who are interested in those things.
You mentioned the phrase table beer a handful of times throughout this interview so far. What, in your opinion, is a table beer, and what makes a good table beer?
For me, a table beer is, and this probably isn't really the correct definition of it, but we don't really try to worry too much about what other people think. But for me, a table beer is a low ABV beer that is meant to be put out on a table and drank by a lot of people that you like to be around, and so it's a beer that you can drink for long periods of time. It's a low ABV, not too crazy in flavor, and so we don't really have too strict of a definition for ourselves on that. But when we look at a table beer, we're always looking for something 4.5 ABV or lower, and then something that you just want to keep going back to, over and over again, something that you can set on a table with 10 people and everybody will like it, type of thing.
I was curious what your thoughts were of low ABV, because if those of you who have listened to the show plenty of times since we've began, anything that's probably under 10% is low ABV for us. So we had, which was the Toffel beer that Sellerman's had over at Sellerman's Brewery, RIP. So I'm always curious because I always love a brewery that has something that's a low ABV, especially if I'm interested in that one extra beer. Like, I really want one more beer. I'm going to be here for a while, but I'm looking at the list and I'm seeing 8%, 10%, 9%, 6%. I want something that's light, easy, crisp. I can't tell you how many times, and I'm being completely honest, that I've gone to a brewery and I'm going to be there for a little bit. Maybe I'm with friends and I have to drive, and I look and I'm like, I want a half pour of whatever this. I'll pay for the full pour. Just give me a half. And I think the importance of having that low ABV, that 4.5 or lower, is big. When you're going out to breweries yourself, what are you looking for in a brewery? Like, what's the first beer that you're going towards?
The first beer I'll normally get will normally be the lowest ABV beer on a menu. For whatever reason, I don't want to sound like a snob or whatever it might be, but for whatever reason, that's sort of what I tend to trend towards. Because a lot of times the lower ABV beers have less things to cloud up flavors. It's kind of a way for me to see, okay, are these guys really making good beer, or are they just slapping a bunch of fruit on a shitty beer and kind of making it work? And so I tend to go for the low ABV beers. And then, to be quite honest with you, I'm a sucker for New England IPAs. That'll be the next thing I go for. The main reason I moved to Old Nation was because I was just a massive fanboy of M43 and what they were doing with the whole line of beers over there.
Hey, Ken, can I interject here with a quick follow-up question regarding what you said? Are you suggesting that when you go to a brewery, you go for the ones with the lowest ABV? Are you suggesting that it's hard to hide behind a low ABV beer and try and mask whether it's processed, ingredient, quality. All of the quality? Is that what you're kind of suggesting? Out of curiosity? Yeah, in your opinion, at least.
Totally, and there's exceptions to that across the board. But when I go to a brewery and they've got a 4.5% Swickle beer or something like that, I know I can try that, and that's the first thing I'll be able to say, okay, these guys really know what they're doing, or whatever it might be, and we hold ourselves to that same standard with our line of table beers. We want those to be where if a brewer comes into our tap room, they can grab one of those and say, okay, these guys know what they're doing, type of thing, and nothing against, we make all of this crazy fruited stuff as well. But
let's say I'm looking through the menu right now on your website. Yeah.
Yeah. So, nothing against that. And we love that as well. But when I'm going into a place, that's always what I go to first. And then after that, I'll get an IPA, whatever they got on draft.
I guess I never really looked at it from the perspective of, low ABV, let's see what you got. And if I guess I just never looked at it that way. That's just very interesting. So no, thank you for sharing.
Totally. And I think I look at it and say, oh, they've got a massive double IPA that's killer, and that might be what other people go to. But for me, and that's just kind of what I tend to look for, so.
Working as a brewer at New Holland and Old Nation, both of them are massive production facilities within the state themselves. They have distribution. Where could we have seen maybe your touch on some of these beers? Were you able to do anything that we might have seen in production or maybe even at the tap house? Like, how were you able to learn without necessarily just brewing another batch of M43 or another batch of Dragon's Milk or the Poet?
Yeah, totally. I would say my first sort of hand in any sort of production recipe building was at New Holland, where me and a couple other brewers developed the recipe for the Passion Blaster, which was I want to say it was a fruited wheat beer that they put out maybe a year or two ago. My memory is a little bit foggy now, but that was, and for me, that was a huge source of pride, was that a beer that I, helped build the recipe for was in the market. But then I left there, went to Old Nation, and I always say that I would never have the confidence to start my own brewery without working for Travis and Nate over at Old Nation, because they were really open to letting me have a lot of input into what we were doing over there. One of my pilot beers, I can't remember the name of it now, but it was a saison it was a dry honey saison that they put out. And it's since been distributed, and they let me build that, that recipe. And then they let me have input on hop selection and stuff like that. And it really, and working for those guys really gave me the confidence to go out and say, yeah, if I can help build recipes with these dudes, I can, do my own little thing, so.
Yeah. All right. So as I said, I figured we were going to get into it. It's might as well time that we get into it. And that is, of course, Big Gretch. So I guess first, the part that I wanted to kind of ask about and talk about is that, while you're not the only brewery to create a beer as a salute to our Michigan governor, Gretchen Whitmer, because there have been others where they have made that woman for Michigan, or as what I still have from Eastern Market Brewing is the Gretchen Whit beer, which I still have a can of this. I don't know if it's really good, but I still have this sucker. But I guess talk to us first about the reasoning behind making Big Gretch and making the trilogy of sorts. I believe there's two of them that have come out. There's still one to go, right?
So there's three of them that have come out, and that is the end of it for us with Big Gretch. Okay. I do miss my mom. She just sat down with me right here. This is Ma Rake right here, everybody.
Hi there, everybody.
Hi, Ma Rake.
Welcome.
But yeah, so yeah, we did the three. The first one was a hard seltzer with cucumber and lime in it. The second one was a tart table beer, dry hopped, and the third one was an imperial sour beer just loaded with blueberry and lemon, and we felt that kind of ran the gambit from the table beer to the super heavily fruited imperial sour with sort of our program, and let us get our thing out to the world,
Mm-hmm. So, I mean, with making the beers, obviously there was a lot of negative criticism that have come out from those beers being made, and I guess the thing that kind of kills me about it is that from my own perspective, I'm looking at this as beers that you're creating to promote, the idea of keeping people healthy and safe in such a hard time that we've been in the last, 12 years, it almost feels like. And and I know that, and I guess talk to us about the criticism and your responses to what you've seen. I guess both positive and negative. Really, I'm curious from your perspective, the criticisms and the compliments that you've seen and heard in releasing these beers.
Yeah, I would say that the amount of compliments massively outweighs the amount of criticisms. It's just that the criticisms tend to be louder on the internet right now. It's a lot easier to go on and say something nasty about somebody in a Facebook comment section than it is to go and say it to their face. And so that's kind of where we got that at. Or, to have a fake account where they'll send some nasty message to us and wish COVID on us, whatever it might be. But at the end of the day, we looked at it as a huge win for the company. We were able to move a massive amount of beer over those three releases, and it really helped us to kind of pay the bills, during the really, really dark times of the shutdowns over the winter and all of those things. And, something that really started as us just trying to find a way to look for something positive in the situation. It really turned out to a lot of people latched onto that and thought, this is something cool. I'll hold onto this can, forever and have it as a keepsake of this time or whatever it might be, And so there was a lot of negatives, and people tried to drag down our ratings on Facebook and Google and whatever it might be. I'm sorry. But at the end of the day, the positives outweighed the negatives. But the negatives were just louder, in some cases than the positives.
Yeah.
The positives use their money.
Exactly.
They do, but
were
you worried that putting out a beer like this would actually alienate a certain percentage of your customer base? Because there is always that kind of, thought in a lot of people's mind if they go with a polarizing type of thing, no matter how you believe about it. Were you worried that could drive off some customers that will just never return because of what you put out?
I was a lot less worried about it than my mom was, but no, to be serious, that was something that I thought about. But at the end of the day, our company works in a way that if somebody was going to boycott us because of Big Gretch, they would have already boycotted us, months prior to that. And so we knew that the people who liked our beer and stuff like that would say, oh, that's kind of a funny thing, even if I don't like the governor or whatever it might be, but still support us. And the people who are going to, make a real deal out of it and say, oh, we're going to boycott this company because of a beer that they put the governor's, face on the label. They weren't coming to us anyways, and so
sure.
We were confident in that, and we've noticed that we haven't really seen any sort of harm from it over the long run, and if anything, it's been a massive positive for us, so
good.
Yeah. And I would definitely say using the likeness of the album cover of The Chronic was a very nice touch. I really like that.
Yeah, that was all my graphic designer Lou. He was like, if we're gonna do this, let's really ruffle people up and use the Chronic for
There have been a lot of beers in the state of Michigan that have been for and against the governor during the times of COVID, and a lot of people have made their voices heard via Yelp, Instagram, Facebook, whatever rating system and website it is. And I know a lot of people are always weary. We had Dan Riley on during the time that he made Very Stable Genius, and that was a series. We had the malt liquor, I believe, when he came on. So it's always a very touchy subject. And here at Better on Draft, we want to make sure that we are a non-partisan group. We do not talk about politics. We have we have platforms in which we talk about touchy subjects, but they ain't political. So that is what I want to say. Josh, I know you're out, you're having fun. We're going to do a quick roundup. Everyone's going to ask you one final question, and then we'll let you get back and make sure you can get your next G&T. Hopefully your mom brought you a new G&T.
I thought she apparently not.
But
brought one for herself.
Yeah. She brought two. She drank one and she's like, I just brought one. Wendy, what's your final question for Mr. Rake here?
Again. So we talked a lot about Muskegon tonight, and I'm wondering what do you suggest people do when they come to Muskegon besides visit your brewery?
First thing is go to visit anything that has to do with any of our natural resources surrounding us here. I think if you want to get a good picture of what we've got in Muskegon, it's go to Pure Marquette Beach, go to Hoffmaster State Park, go to Muskegon State Park, camp out overnight, and then next see what we've got going on with the food and drink scene here in town. I'm sitting at Wonderland Distillery right now, which just opened during the pandemic, doing super cool stuff. I just came from dinner at Nipote's, which is a super awesome small plate homemade Italian spot. There's a lot of really good undiscovered stuff here in town, and our thing is come see us, but then go see everybody else as well. So.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
Daniel.
All right. So if you had to make another Big Gretch number 4, and you had to choose between making a malt liquor that comes in a 40 or a 151 proof rum, which one would you decide to make and why?
Jesus Christ.
We've been working on a malt liquor for a while, so that's probably what it would be. And actually,
there we go.
Gretch was almost a malt liquor in a 40 bottle. We got talked out of it by some people that work for us, but
So
it very
he's gonna skip Big Gretch 4 through 39 and just go Big Gretch 40.
Big Gretch 40. I'm down with that.
Yeah.
If I
just got all warm and tingly.
If I see that, Josh, I expect a bottle on my porch. I expect you distro just to me.
As soon as we make it there.
Nick.
Oh, jeez. It's kind of hard to follow up about with the malt liquor question. Jeez. There was one question that I wanted to ask. You had a saison called Grave Hop that came out last year, or it was part of at least last year at least. A dark saison, and just recently it won in a poll of mlive.com readers. It won a poll for beer of the year. So you're going up against beers like Two Hearted, Drippa from Coonhen, and Matt, one of our former hosts, Matt Bush's all-time favorites, Blood Orange Honey from Sheboygan. For a brewery that does not do any distribution, or very, very little distribution for that matter, how does it feel from your perspective that you're able to hang with some of the big guys in the hearts and minds of beer drinkers?
For us that was such a huge thing, and it really kind of showed us that what we were doing was something that people are looking for. For us to have a sour dark saison be a beer that people are reading about around the state, first and foremost, was such a huge deal for me, because one of our biggest things is just getting people to try beer that they wouldn't otherwise try, And so, like I said before, we do all the crazy fruited stuff, but our goal is to get them to try that dark sour saison when they're in, And so for us, it was just a really special thing, and we really thankful to MLive for even putting us up in it, and then to all the people that voted for us, because it was kind of surreal. And for a brewery that has been kind of existing during a pandemic and nothing else, to get a little recognition without being able to do any beer dinners, no festivals, anything like that, it was just really special, So it was really, really, really cool.
Hopefully the light is at the end of the tunnel, and we can see you guys at festivals, and you guys put some events out. Hopefully this is just the first step in all of that. So congrats to you guys.
Well, thank you so much. We've got big plans, and we're really excited about what's to come here for sure.
Who's next?
All right. That's me, and I get to basically steal Nick's question. So,
sorry, Rob.
Oh, that's perfectly fine. I had that one sitting in the bag. So obviously, as one thing that Nick likes to ask with our guests is that obviously with being in craft beer, that there tends to be a level of, I hate to say snobbiness and elitist or whatever, however word you want to put with that, elitism about being in craft beer and making craft beer. But we want to know, in your fridge, what do you have as your non-craft guilty pleasure that you drink and enjoy?
You word that so much better than me, Rob. I'm very, very impressed.
I've got two. My most, I don't even want to call it a guilty pleasure, because I'm sick of feeling guilty about it, but White Claw. I absolutely love White Claw. I think it's one of the best things. I can drink it all day. I'll never get a hangover. But then other than that, Miller High Life is my go-to beer that I'm always having in my fridge. And I drink more Miller High Life than I probably do of my own beer, to be completely honest.
Nice. If I could say, in all fairness, I was drinking Trulies on Monday night at bowling, so.
Yeah, you're with me on that.
Yeah, hey, it didn't make me bowl any better. I bowled like absolute shit, but whatever. At least they were good.
That's it. It tastes good. That's all that matters,
Oh yeah.
All right. So before I let you go, we dug up some deets on you. We know about your past.
Oh, no.
We know what you've done.
Oh no.
We know that
you got me nervous now.
We know that you worked for the Michigan State and the Michigan State Senate and the Michigan House of Representatives. What is one law
that is
if you could change one liquor law, let's break it down. One liquor law, beer, liquor, wine in Michigan, what would you change?
Out of my own sort of me personally, I would like to see people being able to drink on the beaches here in Muskegon and stuff like that. I know that there's definitely reasons why that's not, a thing, but I think that would be really cool.
Like just an open intox on a certain area, certain beach.
Like go ahead and bring. And that's the thing is people do it regardless, but if you get caught, it's still an open intox ticket. And I just think that if they were to allow that, it would be really cool for people to be able to have beer on the beach legally.
Now, what if let's see if we can make some halfway strides. What if they allowed more pop-up alcohol sales? So a local liquor store or a local bar or brewery could sell stuff for drinking on the beach. So I can't bring my own beer, but right on the boardwalk, I can go buy a G&T from the local distillery.
Yeah, and that's actually funny that you mentioned that, because it's something that we're actually working with I'm personally working with some of our city commissioners on, is a concept sort of in that vein. There's not really much more I can say about it at this point, but I think that would be awesome. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. I appreciate you reaching out. Again, if you guys are listening live or listening via podcast, you can join us live, betterondraft.tv or facebook.com/betterondraft. Go check out Rake Beer Project over in Muskegon, becoming a alcohol destination city for sure, with all the breweries and distilleries going on over there. That's going to do it. Better on Draft, the Michigan Series number 11. Thank you so much for joining us. So no matter what you think of your beer, we think it's Better on Draft. Have a good night.
Peace.
For those of you listening live, stay tuned. We're going to be doing King of the Hill. Josh, thank you so much for joining us.